War is a holy ritual in which two peoples display their worth in the deadly arts and acknowledge, in accordance with ancient tradition, the superior among them. That is not how the humans saw it. When our venerable elder, a veteran of 1,000 battles, announced the start of the ritual and, following the proper custom, fell into her own blade, the humans just stood there. After a long silence, the emissary finally asked, "Won't you sacrifice your most honorable warrior as well?" To which the humans replied, "No, that's the first rule of war. Don't die, that's the enemy's job." The insult only made us more adamant in showing those barbarians their place in the galaxy. We set a place and date for battle, properly informing the humans who, being humans, filled every light year of the way with trillions upon trillions of minds. Once the human ambassador was summoned to explain, she stated, "We are simply following the first rule of war. Know where your enemy lives and drop by for a visit." We soon understood the full meaning of her words. While we moved, painfully slow, through the minefields, the humans would send their fastest ships to attack us, not our warships as decent species would, but our troop carriers and supply vessels. When the admiral contacted the human raiders to inform those were lightly armed and armored vessels, the humans replied, "First rule of war. If you fight fair your tactics, disappearing in the void of space, before our slumbering forces could respond." Late and wounded, we arrived at the coordinates set for battle, anxious to finally prove to the squish bipeds our superiority in the ways of destruction. By now, aware of their treacherous ways, the announcement of our arrival was replaced by a sweep of our long-range scanners. This was wise first rule of war. Don't encourage the enemy to shoot at you. I later found out it was also not very useful. What our scans found was a storm of projectiles heading our way, too close to engage our FTL drives and too fast for slower than light maneuvers. A few of our ships managed to dodge. Most were damaged, some destroyed. A human message played in an open channel, mockingly transmitted in C speed. First rule of war: shoot first and don't miss. Follow the source of the transmission and give chase was the Admiral's pointless command. Pointless because we were already on it and, given how fast the other ships followed, so was everyone else. We were now at the Geneva checklist, as I later learned the humans called it. It wasn't hard to find the human fleet which, at the sight of our superior forces, engaged their FTL drives and bravely ran away. No surprise there. Turns out the limbed slugs were as cowardly as they were deceitful. We chased them and, before their FTL engines could overheat, they would drop from warp speed, giving us the chance to shoot at them with everything we got. They anticipated this. They were cowards, not stupid, and deployed their drones at the rear of the fleet to draw our fire. It didn't matter. Sooner or later, they would be forced to acknowledge our superiority and surrender to our mercy, which we had none to give, and we would chase them through the entire galaxy to make it happen. That's exactly what we did, or at least that's what it felt like. At last, the humans gave up running and instead decided to hide, landing, ships and all, on an eyeball planet, leaving behind a single probe in high orbit with a message. First rule of war: don't waste your ammo, you might need it later. I checked the ship's inventory and found out we had no projectiles left for orbital bombardment. None of US did and, thanks to the human raids on our way to the battle coordinates, we had no functional factory ships to produce more. Looking back, I see we should just have stuffed our largest ships with whatever junk we could find, speed up to near sea in the direction of the planet, and let gravity and inertia finish the humans for us. But at the time our gut juices sparkled at the thought of breaking every teeth of those smug human smiles and, besides, the humans might have been sleazy cowards, but we were noble warriors and we had every intention of proving it. Have you ever been to an eyeball planet? Why would you? Why would anybody? Suck survivable being the key here. The differences in atmospheric pressures feed a planet-wide, never-ending storm, and when this storm drags the materials melted in the hotspot, they solidify in the upper atmosphere in a long, thin shape. Every moment spent on these planets is in the middle of a violent storm, under a rain of knives. So, when we got down to the planet, in small waves since most of our transports were busted during the human raids, we were not having a good time. The humans, however, had previously built a series of underground bunkers and tunnels and were eager to teach us the first rule of war. Troops busy surviving the terrain might be too distracted to survive the enemy. Needless to say, After a while, our transports were too occupied lifting the few survivors like me instead of bringing down reinforcements. None of us wanted to say out loud, but it was time to face reality. The humans won. Our admiral transmitted terms of surrender, acknowledging human superiority, yes. It pains me to say it even now, and informing we would fly home to report our defeat to the council. The response was pretty, well, human. Their entire fleet flew out of the atmosphere, guns blazing, destroying everything that came into their aim. The admiral repeated the message over and over, till the humans finally responded. First rule of war. Kick a man when he's down. It's the best time if you want to win. Now, you might say we lost a third of our fleet that day. I'd say we saved 2/3. We were low on ammo, low on fuel, demoralized, and facing an enemy whose plan was going perfectly. Later I would find out that, according to human tradition, wars are fought with as many battles as possible. A fleet loses, retreats, repairs, resupplies, goes into the next battle, and repeats the process until someone no longer has a fleet. Crazy, right? No wonder they have developed such methods. To them, it's not a matter of honor, it's a matter of survival. But at the time, they didn't know our ways, and we didn't know theirs. Every member of every one of our systems was furious with the humans, so none objected when we marched to the human embassy and shot everything standing on 2 limbs. This was a mistake. While no one was exactly happy with the humans, we were the ones who started the war. We were the ones who committed to the ancient traditions, and now we had shown the galaxy we were willing to break the laws of hospitality if things didn't go our way. All Xenos cut ties with our people. Most were content on ceasing trade, research collaboration, rescinding rights of flight. Some joined the humans in the war, and we learned not to break the first rule of war. Avoid recruiting for the enemy. The following cycles did not go well for us at all. We had never prepared for this kind of conflict, where you need to take your beaten soldiers and send them back to fight, in a fraction of the time necessary to do so. Turns out the first rule of war is, train the way you fight, because you fight the way you're trained. Things got desperate enough we started bribing our sleaziest neighbors into joining the war, one of which accepted under our promise of supplying rare materials they didn't have in their systems. Only thing was, they never had a war fleet worthy of being called that. So we had to rush in building as many ships as we could to provide them, which they happily accepted and took to fight with the humans, who promised them the very systems of ours where the rare minerals were mined. We then learned the first rule of war. Never hand someone a gun unless you know where they'll aim at, or was it the persuasiveness of your argument is proportional to your firepower? I don't really recall. Never pick a fight with someone bigger than you, or even the same size if you can help it. This first rule of war the humans didn't teach us, we already knew. Surrounded, outnumbered, and outmatched in every conceivable way, we surrendered to the humans unconditionally. What followed wasn't so bad, all things considered. A few of our systems were given to the human allies. They didn't take any systems for themselves, but demanded resources necessary to replenish battle loses, which we should finish providing in this or the next cycle. The elders of the council were forced to retire, but were not taken to Terra to be paraded before their members, as they would in the old ways. Our systems were occupied, of course, but the humans seem more concerned in making us capable of buying the things they offer than anything else. And of course, they even started rebuilding our fleet. That's how I ended up here at the Academy, because, while the old ways served us for many generations, there is no denying the way of the humans works. And funnily enough, these times are more peaceful. Now the galaxy saw what happens when war is fought in human terms. That's why I am eager to learn of the Terran way of partaking in the sacred ritual. That's interesting, but it doesn't answer my question. Why do you keep those stretchy biosynth layers over your claws? Oh, right. That's the second rule of war. Always have a pair of socks at hand.